So if we look at the other side, introverted thinking, accuracy. Again, this is the polarity opposite of harmony. Not to try to bring this in to flavor harmony's wisdom. Let's leave this wisdom on its own. Accuracy, it's basic use versus wisdom.
So using the function is analyzing information to develop precise logical frameworks. That's its basic use, how most people are using it. But the wisdom of the function is seeking a deeper understanding of principles and truths, recognizing that clarity comes from stripping away the superfluous to reveal the core logic or truth.
I'm going to talk about Elon Musk again.
Okay.
Because I'm reading his book. I'm not a fanboy, I promise. I do like him. I think he's a smart guy. But he actually practices this like crazy. He has this concept where he calls it the idiot quotient. Like he'll be working with like Boeing or NASA, and there'll be like this engine part for a rocket that costs, let's just say, $100,000. But he asks his engineers, give me the breakdown of the raw materials, how much they actually cost. And it'll be like $10,000. And he said the difference between what the raw materials cost and what the finished product costs is what I call the idiot quotient. And if it's got a high idiot quotient, I think the people behind the project are stupid, et cetera. He's got his own opinions and all this. But the point is, he calls it first principled thinking. He's trying to find what are the actual ingredients and components that go into whatever I'm making. And let's focus on that. Let's not just take the costs that NASA or Boeing or some other manufacturer give us, because that's been inflated with a bunch of BS that an idiot quotient he talks about. He's like, I know the core principles are of physics, that it takes these ingredients, these 5 parts for these metals, and they all cost this much. So why is this cost this? And he'll tell his engineers, is any of that needed? Is that part needed? No. Question assumptions, cut it. That's not needed. That's not a core principle. And he drives it down until he gets to a very simple design or implementation or ingredient set or, material set. There's a genius and a wisdom in this first principled thinking that you're talking about right here. That's, I think, it writ large in an actual application of wisdom with this. And I think he's used it to build all of his companies.
Yeah. Yeah. I think of it, the way that I think of it is just questioning premises.
Yeah.
It's like, this is how it's been happening. It's like, okay, or not even this is how it's been, but it's like the premise is it has to be that way.
Yeah.
And the wisdom of the function is, why?
Yeah.
Or does it? Like what are all the assumptions that we're making, or what are all the assumptions that we're using as the foundation for it has to happen that way?
And he'll ask this question to his engineers. He'll say, is there any physics reason why it can't be done this way? And they're like, no, the laws of physics don't prevent it. And he's like, then it's stupid if we don't do it.
Right.
Like, if physics can do it, let's go do it. Why would we throttle for human reasons?
Right.
That's not a first principle thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's an acknowledgement of intelligence behind this function for a lot of people. A lot of people think that this is a smart function. And in particular,
it can be.
It can be.
In the right hands of the user.
It tends to be articulate.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of conflating articulate with smart. And there is some relationship oftentimes, but not always. Like you can be a very articulate person and not really be able to quote unquote do the math behind things. But the function is not about being, when we talk about the wisdom, I really want to make sure that we don't conflate intelligent with wise.
Yeah.
We talked about it last time in the last podcast, you mentioned that excellence is also not wisdom. And this is a function that can also push towards excellence. And it's important to remember that excellence or intelligence or any of these other things that all these qualities and characteristics that we tend to admire in other people, that they're not the same thing as wisdom. Wisdom is very specifically lived experience. It's like living through something and then gaining the necessary information afterward. And it requires discernment. And the challenge with this function, and the reason why it's hard to get to wisdom, is the function has a tendency to want to live inside of itself, in its own theory.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only way to get to wisdom with this function is to play it out. And by playing it out, it means sharing your ideas, communicating, talking about them, hearing yourself say them, hearing yourself, like being forced to express, getting the pushback of others, having the I don't know, sharpening of the saw through conflict or conversation, and not allowing yourself to put too much of yourself in, because that's superfluous. Like how I feel about it is superfluous. What I want to be the outcome is superfluous. So it's important to remember that there's a bunch of information that tends to throw this function off the track. And the function might not recognize it because as the user of it, you still sound smart. You still sound articulate.
So to pull this in, I mean, taking my example then of Elon Musk, if he wasn't tapped into the wisdom of it, he would just do this math on paper and keep presenting his academic papers to everybody. Look how the cost of the materials aren't what we're actually paying, guys. And look, I've done all the math and here's the paperwork.
Right.
You're saying the next step would be to go build the rocket with those materials at that lower cost.
Yeah.
Like that's where you get the wisdom, not just doing the math and
Right.
showing the logic, but you have to actually now go and execute on that logic to see if it bared out.
Yeah. Well, you have to revisit, right? You have to, the playing it out is an introverted thinking, right? Because all the introverted functions, or at least this is my theory, all the introverted functions are meant for processing and the extroverted functions are meant for living and doing.
Yeah.
And so once you start living and doing, you're out of the realm of introverted thinking. What I'm saying is that introverted thinking must revisit its own conclusions. It must revisit its own premises.
So you're not saying get a measuring tool outside yourself. You're talking about you need to come back in and continue to be refining internally.
That's right. Yeah. If you're not updating your thinking on a regular basis, you're not tapping into the wisdom of the function, because the function requires constant refinement. It requires you to question yourself all the time. And so what's the point of that? Why is that wise? Well, because you learn all the things that we glob onto what we believe are principles and truth that have nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
Like we watch ourselves constantly bias our own thinking. We watch ourselves constantly do this. And the wisdom of that is, there's a lot of decisions that we make that we think are smart that are very stupid. There are a lot of decisions we make that we believe are based on principles that are actually unprincipled. We kid ourselves. We lie to ourselves a lot.
Like going to college will get me a job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I just got to get to college and everything will work out. It's
in my field.
What a dumb thought that is.
Well, but it used to be a good one.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that it used to be true. There was a time that it was true. And there's a salesmanship that happens that it continues to be true. People will try to convince you that it continues to be true, but we haven't questioned that premise in long enough. We're starting to. You can see society is starting to question that premise.
Yeah.
But introverted thinking helps us make wise decisions by questioning the premise.
And that's an example, I think, of something that seems smart to you and somebody else. No one's going to be critical of you. Like, you went to college? What a stupid choice.
Yeah, what an idiot.
What a dumb person you are.
College.
You went to college. Duh. No, everyone will affirm this.
Yeah.
I mean, very few people will not affirm it, I guess is what I should say.
Mm-hmm.
But most people are like, good for you. Go to college. Yeah, go for the thing. That's right.
Yep.
You did the right thing. So you're going to get a ton of affirmation.
Yes.
And it still might be a dumb choice.
Yes.
So that's the hard part of this. To tap into the wisdom, you have to do your own thinking.
That's
what you're really saying.
Yep.
The wisdom is do the thinking for yourself, the refinement for yourself.
That's right.
That's when you're wise in this.
And when you make the wrong decision, it's okay. Just reevaluate and then make the better decision next time. And what's the wisdom of the function is to take yourself out of it.
Yeah.
Is to stop making it so personal. Is to like make smart decisions and look at things in the clearest way possible without all of your own personal agenda and everybody else's agenda involved.